Hi guys, welcome to the channel. I'm Momin and I wanted to do a video on anxiety fatigue, the different symptoms and the different sensations and feelings I had as a result of it, how that affected my behavior, how that affected my mood, and how I gradually kind of overcame that. But before I go on, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, let us know what you think, and yeah, we appreciate the great feedback. Thank you for being part of this community. So anxiety fatigue, I did a recent post on this as well, where I posted, like, I made a collage of like 3 pictures of me sleeping at work, because that's something that I used to do. I used to take naps when I was working. I was working for a startup and it was a relatively chill environment, so I mean, I it was okay, and they really prioritized mental health and people taking care of themselves and taking holidays to just look after themselves as well. So in that sense, that kind of facilitated my comfort traps, but I'll just get to that. So in that post as well, I highlighted the importance of that post was to highlight how anxiety, chronic OCD can make us just really exhausted all the time, and we don't feel like doing anything. We are perpetually tired. Even after having like 8 9 hours of sleep, we still feel tired. And that's exactly how it was for me as well. And like, if someone would walk into my room and say, or if I would get a message on my phone saying, hey, we are meeting for dinner tonight, you should join, every single time that happened, it would be met with, from my side, from like this long drawn out sigh, and I'd be like, I have to go out. That means, do I have to now I have to think about what to wear, which means that I had to wear clothes that weren't contaminated or that weren't associated with like a bad event. I had to figure out, okay, whose car will I go in? Whose car can I sit in? Do I take an Uber? What compulsions do I have to do from my room till going out? And what will be the sequence? How will that work out? Stuff like that, right? So there was a lot of like mental gymnastics I had to do. But anyway, so I just didn't feel like doing anything, and just the effort that goes into, let's say, doing an activity or even just hanging out. I mean, for especially for guys, I mean, you just have to put a t-shirt on and some jeans on, pants on, shorts on, and you just go and hang out with your friends, right? It's not that much of an effort, but for me, it felt like, oh god. So the preparation is what overwhelmed me. So which is why I would often postpone plans, cancel them, or like just find like the most comfortable thing to do, whether it was the most comfortable activity, the most comfortable people to hang out with, the most comfortable location, all of those things. Oh, and this also too. Oh, if it is in that part of town which I consider contaminated, or I consider that place associated with like a bad memory, then I can't go there. I don't want to go there. It would be too triggering, so I would not go there. And so, of course, because I was always tired, I was also always sleepy. And the I think the best way that I can describe it is having these vibrations, these like buzzing sensations in my body, because that is how it would feel. Even if I would be sitting still like this, I would feel like my body is still doing like this. I mean, it was still buzzing, and there was just this constant motion that kind of went through my body, and I could very very visibly feel it at times. So obviously I would be sleepy. I would love taking naps. I would take naps like during the day, even at work, when you open like a blank word file to work on something, right? Or I had to work on Photoshop quite a lot, so I would open Photoshop, and like it would be obviously like a blank file that I had to start, and just looking at it would overwhelm me, because of like, oh god, where do I start from? Which like image do I place first, or what part do I edit first? Where do I start from? And then I would just put my head down for like 5 10 minutes, pause for a second, breathe, and then start. And that's how much it would overwhelm me, and I would not be able to start on something very immediately, right? So I would be doing that like all the time. And even at work, even when I was out, even when I was like interacting with people, whatever it was, I was always looking forward to going to bed. I was always looking forward to, like, not even like sleeping necessarily, but just being in my bed, because obviously that was the most comfortable thing ever, right? And it was a strange thing though, because even when I was in bed, I mean, yes, it would be the most comfortable, but even in bed at times wouldn't feel really relaxing, or like it wouldn't help unwind or feel better at all, right? Because there was still so much anxiety in my body, and there was my brain felt like it was completely fried and saturated. So even when you're lying down but your brain feels like it's completely gone off, you don't feel very cozy, because internally you're just like pumping fear and anxiety, right? So even then it wouldn't be ideal, but it would be still the most comfortable I could get in a way, right? So it got so bad as well, because I mean my compulsions were contamination related as well, so I also couldn't physically interact with the world around me. So that became like obviously a barrier, but then it became so much that even talking to people 15 minutes at length, I would need a breather after that. So if let's say we were hosting a dinner at our house, or we would have generally just have guests over, right? So in fact 15 minutes is also, I'm being generous with that. I think it would be maximum 10 minutes, and beyond 10 minutes I would feel like I'm forcing myself to be there, or that I'm just being coerced into it, right? Obviously no one was coercing me, but I felt like something was coercing me, because I just wanted an out, right? So I would come to my room, I would take like a 10-minute breather first, or like I would take like a 15-minute breather for spending 10 minutes outside my room, because it would get too overwhelming, and I would just be like just breathing and just like, you know, pausing and just looking at my phone, just like replying to messages, just unwinding and trying to make myself feel better by like what looking at Instagram or something like that, right? So that's how it was. And it goes for like any kind of activity, by the way, not just like talking to people. I mean, talking to people is like, how much energy does that really require, right? But it would be any activity, even if like 10 minutes of just like a basic chore, for example, like taking the books off of my shelf, dusting the shelf and putting them back. How much effort does that take? Not at all. I don't have like a, you know, my all my walls are not full of books that way, so it's just like one small shelf. But even that would feel like, oh my god, okay, I did this like big task for the day. Now for the rest of the day I won't do anything, the rest I'll just tackle tomorrow or something like that, right? And that was obviously, that would not do me any favors, because then not much would get done. Plus I was constantly reinforcing to my brain that I can't handle more, any more frustration. I cannot handle any more energy in my body. I can't exert myself beyond a certain point, and so the low frustration tolerance element kept getting reinforced over and over and over again. But what also was, I mean, obviously, with all of this, when you are so feeling so tired, right? When you're so completely exhausted, your nerves are also fried, and you basically can't feel much, right? You kind of become, with a lot of people, what happens is they also, their emotions kind of like get dimmed out a little bit, and not a little bit, quite a lot. They're like, our emotions get very dim, and we hardly feel them. I felt like I was emotionally numb actually, because even if it was like some sort of happiness, if I would feel, it would be like a very faint happiness, like, you know, complete darkness and just a little flicker or something like that. I'm not saying it wasn't genuine happiness, it was genuine happiness, but also the thing that made it feel like it was very faint is because I would want to feel it very in a very immense way, in a very stark way, and like heightened way. And because I would chase that feeling of happiness, so that was also the problem, because obviously then I would not feel that heightened happiness. It would be very dim, and it would always feel underwhelming. It's like, yeah, I'm happy, but like it's not enough. I need more of that dose of happiness. maybe I will only actually feel truly happy if this happiness was bigger. So there was a lot of chasing feelings, which is why I was also in an internal cycle of analysis, but that's a separate video. And so then when you're feeling emotionally numb, and when you're feeling very tired all the time, you are also very demotivated, right? Because you don't want to do anything, everything feels overwhelming, everything feels that it would be too much, everything feels like, I mean, what's the point, right? Even if it's not bringing you any joy, then and you no longer feel those emotions, then why do that thing anywhere, whether it's going out, hanging out, whatever it was. So a lot of demotivation, not feeling like I wanted to do anything, completely disinterested in life around me most of the time. And a lot of my friends described it that way as well. They were like, "You are just dead on the inside now," and I would laugh about it because I mean I found that funny as well. So, and I think humor really helped get me through, which is something we also talk about. It was very, very important, and when they would say it, I wouldn't even get offended by it. I'd be like, well, yeah, that's true, and it would become a joke. And like strangely acknowledging that kind of brought me true laughter, and I would really laugh about it. So it's a strange kind of contradictory kind of two feelings, three feelings all at the same time, sometimes happening. Like you feel emotionally numb, but when you laugh, you also experience kind of some kind of joy, and you're also able to kind of make fun of yourself a little bit. So it was everything mixed. And of course, I would, like I said, I would get very quickly overwhelmed with anything. Like even just opening a Word document and seeing, oh God, I have to fill this up with like what 750 words. This is like I can't do this, and it was just too much. And this also resulted in a lot of procrastination as well for anything, for my daily errands or any work related tasks at times as well, or just like chores around the house or things I had to do, which were very, very limited because again, I could not touch anything really because of contamination OCD. But there was there was this constant buzzing in my body, so I would feel extremely overwhelmed with even like the slightest like task given to me or slightest responsibility or workload given to me. So I myself would keep it like bare minimum, because and it became such a part of my personality that it was like, oh, I'm just a low key person, I don't like pushing myself too much. I'm okay, I'm completely, satisfied with the bare minimum in life. I'm a moderate person, I don't need much, which is still true. I don't feel like I need too much in life to be happy. But back then it was also coming from this place of like, I don't want to push myself, right? Because if I push myself, I don't think I can handle the stress. And if I can't handle the stress, something in my brain will break. And it'll send me down a spiral and I would be miserable. I won't enjoy life. You know how it goes, right? The other physical aspects of this anxiety fatigue were also strained muscles. So my neck would always be strained, my shoulders would always be strained, my temples would specifically, my temples would always just be this, like the sides of my head would always be very, very tense. And it would always feel just very close, everything would feel very closed up in myself. And so I would like massage myself, and genuinely, I mean, because anxiety does give you those symptoms, it does give you those bodily reactions. So my muscles were stiff, and I would feel like there were so many knots. And I don't know what the scientific term is, but like where like when you're, even if you're not having a headache, but if you like massage your head, you'll feel pain in certain points where I think it has to do with blood flow and stuff like that. I'm not entirely sure. So what would happen is, see what happens when I get jumbled in my words. But like I would get those sensations, and sometimes I would get massage because it would just be like there were knots and knots and knots, and that would just not be great. So again, on top of fatigue, exhaustion, emotional numbness, demotivation, feeling overwhelmed, strained muscles, feeling just disinterested in life, it was also affecting. This one time I was at work, and we were having lunch, and I was hungry, and food was right there in front of me. Like I had eaten half my plate, and I was still hungry. But I was like, I feel so tired. I don't like just just like, having the rest of this food, like having to chew it, put it down my throat, is just feeling like too exhausting. Like I want to have more. I'm hungry. There's space in my tummy, but it's just like, I don't know. So so it would affect my appetite as well. But and I do want to really clarify over here also is that that's not why I'm skinny though, because I've been skinny my entire life. My siblings were also skinny. I get it in my genes, and now like now my siblings are older, so they're fine. They're fine now. And I think I will be as well. I have gained weight recently actually, so I can see that it'll happen. That's just a trajectory. It works. So even before like chronic OCD, when I ate like tubs of ice cream and whatnot, it wouldn't do anything to me. So my just body works that way. So I just felt the need to clarify that. But yes, it did affect my appetite quite a bit, because even when I would be hungry, I would just even the thought of eating would make me feel tired. So I would be like, I'll just have a little and just get it over with, right? Also, sitting with the same plate for like 20-30 minutes, it felt like I'm wasting my time, and I would get really impatient. I'd be like, I'll just like finish up as much as I can right now and just then put the rest away, even if I'm hungry. So again, think about it. It starts with like tired nerves. It starts with your nerves being completely like burnt out, and it then starts affecting your life in terms of your mood, life structure, your avoidance mechanisms, your compulsions, and again, this is the other important part of it, is the beliefs around it, is that I firmly believe that feeling anxious, feeling tired was like the worst thing. I don't want to feel it. I can't handle it. I just don't want it. And ironically, by doing my compulsions and avoiding life, I was feeling more anxious and I was feeling more tired. But I felt like but in my head, I felt like not exerting myself was the answer, because it would add on to it. But when we talk about, oh, how did I overcome anxiety fatigue, is I actually started to do things. I actually started to put myself out there. I started to exert myself, not put myself out there like in a romantic sense, but I mean that too a little bit. But just like, but in terms of physical activity. If someone was saying let's hang out, I would then make it a point to go, even if I felt so annoyed. Like I was like, why am I going? Why am I doing this? But I also knew that I needed to do that, because this lifestyle that I had built was not sustainable. If somebody gave me responsibility, I didn't say no. I would say, okay, yes, give it to me. If somebody in the house asked me to do a chore, I'd say, okay, I'll do it. If somebody asked me to, hey, can you go to the grocery store with me? Very regretfully and resentfully at times, I would go. I would force myself to go, because and I'm telling you, I'm really telling you, like initially it did feel like I was coercing myself to do those things, and in some ways it is that way, because you do have to pick yourself up very forcefully. You would not want to do it. You'd get really annoyed and irritable, and at times angry and frustrated as well, like, why do I have to do this? Why am I doing this? So you will get those off moods. Don't expect that you'd be very cheery, that, oh, I am doing like a frustration tolerance exercise and this is going to make me feel great now. And don't think that that was me as well. I wasn't. I was very like, I was a troll about it. Like I was just like really angry about it. So but but by doing those things, like by adding more to my plate, by not avoiding tasks or things in my life because it was just like, oh, because it's overwhelming, that is how I broke. Not only, so this tackles several things. It breaks your compulsive cycle, it breaks you out of your comfort trap shell, it helps increase frustration tolerance. And also, by the way, bodily movement also increases motivation levels as well. um, it gave me like, and it really gave me a sense of achievement and productivity as well, because it was like, I'm wasting my life otherwise, I'm not doing anything, and I felt even like really bad about that. So even that would make me feel really like low about it and further worsen my mood. So by doing things, by being out there, by actually being hands on with life, it made me feel more it made me feel more in control. It made me feel more like I could handle things in life. And that's where the perspective shift also started to happen, because when we are afraid of these things in our mind, it is literally catastrophic, like the world is about to fall apart, or like the literally the earth is about to shatter. That is how catastrophic it feels. But when you boil down as to what is it that you're afraid of when it comes to like being tired or exhausted, what is it that we're afraid of? We're afraid of a sensation in our body. Being tired is a sensation. Feeling anxious is a sensation. Or feeling frustrated as a result of being tired is a sensation. This is just, it boils down to just that. And if we really see that it is sensations, and yes, it can be overwhelming sensations, and these are uncomfortable feelings, but if we just see it as that, it really helps tackle those things and keep like the goal in mind of what we're trying to tackle. Because otherwise we feel like, oh my god, this will happen, and it's just like the world will fall apart. And but essentially it's that. And when I started to, first it was like, yeah, but I mean, it would still be bad if I do these things, right? But then when I started to do those, it actually started to make sense that, wait, is this what I was making such a fuss about? Feeling a bit extra tired, or feeling a little exhausted, or feeling like I had exerted myself, feeling this kind of energy in my body. This is what I was afraid of? Like, really? But again, it wasn't it wasn't like that. Obviously it took me a lot of time, but it started to make sense as I started to put myself there. So there was obviously the behavior part of things that had to change. Doing exposures, that was a big one, because even my fear of doing exposures was that I would feel extremely overwhelmed and anxious and tired and all of those things with that, right? So that's why I would put off exposures like anything. I would run away from them like the plague. But then there was also the part of things that was doing the perspective shifts as well. Okay, what is it that will, what's my worst case scenario with feeling tired, right? What's my worst case scenario with feeling exhausted? What's my worst case scenario with feeling sad feelings as a result of that exhaustion? Do I need to run away from these sad feelings? Do I need to run away from negative emotions? So it was that cycle that I had to break down belief wise and behavior wise. And I can do a separate video on beliefs related to anxiety fatigue as well. Actually, the video I've done, some videos down, if you scroll down a bit, on fear, and fear of being overwhelmed. I talk about the belief side of things in that video. So I will try to link it down below in the description as well, so that you can click that and you can go to that video from here. But yeah, that's what I want to cover. And in another video, maybe later today, by the way, I will do a video on why exposures weren't the only answer for recovering from OCD, and which is what I've touched on a little bit in this video, but I want to do that separately and go into more detail with that. But yeah, I think the reason I want to do this video was to bring more awareness to anxiety fatigue, what kind of sensations can come to make you not feel like you're the only one experiencing this, to make you understand that OCD can and chronic anxiety can make you feel these things. And there is a way to overcome that. So there was an awareness part, but there's also the motivation part and the hope part to not make you feel alone. And yeah, you can do this too. Bye, take care.